Have you ever been in a desperate situation? What do you do when you are in a desperate situation? Today I want to say that desperate situations, some people think you should take desperate measures. But sometimes when we take desperate measures, they become counterproductive. Sometimes when we take desperate measures, we go into debt. Sometimes when we take desperate measures during desperate times, we complain or even go to witch doctors to subvert the situation that we are in. Today, I want to say there is God's way of dealing with desperate situations and there is man's way. There are two characters in the book of 1 Samuel. One of the characters is by the name of Saul. Saul, during desperate times, he decided to do man's way and to go man's way. But David, during desperate times, he decided to go it God's way. Saul ended in suicide. His life was completely lost and he suffered because during desperate times he approached it with man's way. Today I want to speak to you about desperate times. We are in desperate times sometimes because of our own decisions, sometimes because of sin, sometimes because of death of beloved ones, because of being rejected and humiliated. But today I want us to study 1 Samuel chapter 30. David was in desperate times because of his challenge and problem. What was his challenge? He decided to go and hide in the land of the Philistines when he was chased by Saul, who wanted to kill him because he was the heir apparent to the kingdom of Israel. What did he do? He did not consult the Lord. He went to the Philistines, and the Philistines wanted him to fight the children of Israel. He was in desperate times because, number one, he did not seek God's direction when he went to the Philistines. Number two, because of deception. He had deceived the king of the Philistines that he had joined them and he was ready to fight the children of Israel. So as he marched with the Philistines to fight the children of Israel, God was gracious. The Philistines did not trust him. He had left his home in Ziklag, where he had been apportioned and stayed for a year. And the Amalekites that he used to attack came after him. When they found the camp deserted, they decided to take captive the able-bodied men and the wives, and they destroyed and burned David's village. When he came back, he discovered that he had lost everything. His men who had lost their wives attacked him. They said, "It's because of you." Sometimes we are in desperate situations because people think as a leader we made them go into trouble. David was blamed. He was desperate. David could have done it man's way. He could have given up. He could have committed suicide. He could have done very many wrong things. But he decided to solve it God's way. Today I want to say that when I'm desperate, I will go God's way. And what was God's way? Number one, he started with God. He found strength in God. Amidst the ruins and the desolation and the loss of wives and men and property, David decides to find strength in God. Let us always find strength in God. Number 2, he prayed and sought divine direction. And number 3, he started with God to pursue his enemy. When you are desperate, start with God. Number 2, go with God. And when you are desperate, go with God. Even if you are keen to pursue your God, never look at serving other people as distractions. They may be opportunities that God is giving you to restore you to glory and to direct you towards a great purpose. David found an Egyptian who was sick, an invalid, thirsty, but he decided not to ignore him or to look at him as a distraction, but he was an opportunity. And when they fed him and he was revived, he told them where the enemy was. Sometimes God used the people that we consider to be of no use to us. And when we go with God, we act with compassion and we serve everybody. When we serve everybody, God may use these people to bring us to his glory and to meet us at the point of our needs. Number 2, David was persistent. When we go with God, we are persistent. Despite the hardship and the challenges, it is God who can be able to turn things around. Number 3, when we act God's way, we act like God. After they had defeated the enemy, they were persistent. They fought till dawn and they were able to defeat the enemies. Only few fled, but they recovered all that they lost. When we go with God, God restores us. He gives us even more than what we have lost. And after we get the victory, number 3, we should act like God. David became gracious with the people who did not join them in the war because they were tired. He became gracious. We should be gracious to the weak and the people who are not able when we get victory. We should be gracious to forgive. And we should be gracious to serve even the people who we think do not deserve. This ministry is a calling to be gracious. We should forgive the people who wronged us and the people who joined other people. And lastly, he was generous. Let us be generous with God's blessings. God has given us the blessings of talents and ability. We should be generous and share it. Preach to everybody. Preach to all and preach with grace. Freely we have received, freely we should give. Today I want to say you may be in desperate situation. Handle it God's way. How do you do it? Start with God. Go with God. And finally, act like God would have wished. Be gracious and be generous. May the Lord save you from the desperate situation that you are in, and may he turn things around as he did it in Joseph, in David. David was in a desperate situation because of his own problems and challenges. And God is gracious. Despite the fact that we may be in desperate situation because of our failures and mistakes, let us do it God's way. And God will be gracious and turn things around. Let us always start with God, go with God, and act as God wishes. In the name of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.